Welcome, everybody. I want to change your perspective. This is 3D Changes Perspectives. And today, we're going to go ahead and start with privacy because the nomenclature around privacy seems to be a little bit odd compared to like 20 years ago. And I think it's because we have the digital and the physical. And so some people are thinking, hey, maybe they're different. So, really, the current perspective on digital privacy specifically is if you have nothing to hide, and then you don't need privacy. But in reality, digital privacy is actually a step towards security. And just like with physical privacy, um, in case you're wondering, yeah, your physical privacy is a type of security to keep you safe. So I'm hoping to change your perspective on what privacy actually is rather than its digital and physical privacy. So they are only the same, but important for everyone to be able to have. It's kind of basically like a type of freedom. Let's put it that way. Um, so that's what we're going to talk about today. And every episode, we're going to slowly change into something else. So the next episode be somewhat privacy oriented, but it will expand on it while covering a different topic. And that's just going to be the concept of the show. So that way you kind of can learn as we go, you grow as you go. So really, what's the difference between a digital privacy and a physical privacy? I think that's most important to start. So like um, okay, if you have a physical privacy, this can keep you from getting robbed or worse, right? So a good example to explain physical privacy is like you put your money in a wallet and you put that wallet in a pocket. Then you have more than one pocket, so people have to guess which pocket it's in. If you didn't have physical privacy, you'd put your money into a clear wallet and put that clear wallet around your neck, and then everyone would know exactly where it's at. So you wouldn't have that kind of physical privacy. So digital privacy is basically the same thing, just with your devices. It's you wouldn't put your banking data and your passwords on the front screen of your phone or your computer, right? So that's where it comes different. Like you want to encrypt it, you want to put it in a zip file, you want to do different things, right? So now the a lot of people they get confused of like how can we stop this different privacy attacks and how can blah blah blah, and they get really confused and they get scared and they go, I don't know if I can do this. But really, we just got to start small and then slowly work our way up. It's just kind of like when you was learning how to speak a new language or something. You don't sit there and just start at the end. You learn something small and you work your way up. So with digital privacy, this can help you from being attacked from viruses and attackers and intrusive eyes. Because there's 11 countries that actually watch everything their peoples do, including the country I live in. So just so you aware, that is a thing. So steps to like getting your privacy, like what are the steps that people would take? Well, first they would harden their systems. They would then harden their operating system, then their device, then their storage, um, and even like how you commonly use your devices. You harden that. And when we say harden, we mean make it stronger for you. That's all that really means. Like if you play Pokemon, there is a bunch of characters that can actually do something called harden, and it's just a defense wall. Well, that's basically what we're doing. We're putting up defense walls around our data or ourselves or even our contents of our devices. And that's all that really means. So, obtaining privacy can be difficult. And like I said, it's sometimes the best option, though, for getting privacy is doing it the easiest way. What's the easiest way to start? And I think it's with your browser. If you can harden your web browser, you can harden your cell phone. If you can harden your cell phone, you can harden your laptop, your computer. And it kind of snowballs your way up to those better privacy systems. And so that's where we're going to start today. We're going to start with the browser. Um, I'm going to go ahead and put on the something on the screen for you guys. Tag your screen. And hold on 1 second. I just got a froze. Okay. Oh no, I think he froze. All right. As I'm trying to get this pulled up, basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna look at um different ways to harden your browser because it can be really simple, as like just as simple as one single file. Um, okay. Uh, yeah. My streaming browser completely froze up on me. And it's gonna. I don't know if you guys can hear me. It, all right. I don't know if you guys can see that. Um, I'm gonna try this again. I can't even see my face. Um, dang. Okay. Yep, perfect. You can see me now. I couldn't see myself a second ago. Screen one. Do this. All right, that time it finally worked. All right, I apologize for that. Um, Sometimes when you harden things, it does make things complicated. As you can see, I do have a hardened browser, but every time I went to go share my screen, it locked up on me because I was trying to click the please share my screen, but I had to approve of it to be shared. So anyways, we're looking at basically Mozilla Wiki. This is probably Mozilla is one of those places where they have been really striving to push privacy, user in privacy, and things like that. And ever since they came out with the original Mozilla window browser. And so where we're at right here is this just wiki.mozilla.org about security and sandbox hardening. And as we go through here and we look, we can actually see what exactly is going on. And all we're doing is we're putting an additional process in front of everything that happens. So you can see this thing called sandbox. That's what we're doing. We're just putting everything into a sandbox. So if we're on a website and it's trying to access our computer, this little browser stopper stops it. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's basically like, hey, I want to filter stuff that's trying to access my computer so I can approve or disapprove things that want to access my computer. And that's what everybody should be doing. That's just a really good privacy step. Um, and if we keep going down, they explain like here we go, Sandbox blocks the file from being accessed that is trying to compromise your device. And they have a lot of information and tips in here. And what it just comes down to those few pictures that I really want to show you, because they really explain it the best, what's going on. So to get to that point, I like to talk about the Firefox configuration hardening, which they weren't one of the only, they're not the only browser that does this. I think they were one of the first browsers that do this, but now I think all Chrome browsers based or Chrome based browsers do this. Opera, Chromium, Free Chromium, Firefox, they use a user file. It's user.javascript. And all this means is that uh, people who have expertise in hardening these systems produce these user files. And everybody using the browser produces a user file. So if you just replace your user file with a hardened user file, basically you can then immediately harden your device without having to know anything. It just, boom, it does it for you. And I think that's the secret to web browser hardening, is this little user file, because it no longer matters if you know what you're doing. You can get someone who does know what they're doing, you can get their file, and then as you learn, you can adjust your file to make it more of how you want it. And so as you see down here in installation, installing it does involve in this case, it involves a terminal, but there are other ways to do it. I'm going to show you that. Just don't want you to get scared by that. And as you can see here, it will remove your passwords. So back those up, write them down off of your computer or phone, because honestly, that's something you probably should be doing anyways. So I want to just talk about specifically the user file now, because like I said, this is going to be the thing that's going to really help you. And if you look, we're another Mozilla website. This is one of their knowledge bases, and it has tons of information on how to set up these user files. And they have these links down here at the bottom, which I think are really important. And then they just basically say, how to build it, this and that, which we're going to we're going to visit one of these websites here in a second. It's just, like I said, Mozilla was one of those people that they really pushed this whole privacy thing and the fact that people could do it. And they have tons of resources on how to do this. So if you really want to know how to put in Mozilla first. Type in Mozilla, hardening, browser into your search engine, and watch what comes up, because you're going to get a lot of great resources. So GitHub is a common place that people go to. It's not the only Git that exists. There's tons of Gits out there. This is one of the most biggest Gits out there. And a Git is just a way of accessing files. And here are guidelines. So this is like step-by-step instructions on, if you don't know what you're doing, how to do it. Even gives you where stuff is stored, where these files are actually stored, so you can find them, copy them, paste, replace, anything of that sort. And you see they have it for both Windows and Linux. If you're on a Mac, I do believe it's even easier to find. You should be able to use the Mac searching. And so they can see here, they are referencing a specific user JavaScript file. So if you want to use that one, and it says here, just download it, replace it, change anything inside of there you want to change. Like here, you can actually change, they give an example, change the language to the language you might use. Your user preferences, make sure it's set to auto update true, so it'll automatically, as soon as you paste it in and you load up the browser again, it will automatically add that in. And then just save the file in the location, and then here, open profile manager, and then create a new profile and add the recently created folder. That's pretty simple. It's like basically if you're going to save a file into a new folder, it's the exact same thing. Open up the browser, open up your settings, go into your profile manager, go new profile. It's going to ask if you got a file, and you say yeah. You show it the file, and it says okay, and then boom, you're in. Now, this Firefox profile maker is what we're going to show next, because it's like the bee's knees of generators for getting your privacy set up. But when we're going into the manual configuration and stuff, if you really want to get into all this, it's really important to learn it over time. So every time you see a word or something, you might want to search what that means. Because, for example, OS or OCSP, not a whole lot of people actually know what that is. Like, unless you deal with browsers and you deal with web security, you're not going to know what that means. Like here they have enabled DNT, which then they put beside it do not track. A lot of people would think DNT was a drug or something, like, because there's DMT, but in reality, DNT just means do not track, and it's a system that's been put in not that long ago, really, in a lot of browsers, including Mac devices, including your iPhones, where you can actually tell stuff, hey, you're not allowed to track me, and it sets in some parameters inside of the device's system to say, hey, no, you're not allowed to do this, 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 and this. And then you can like disable your cookies and fingerprinting, which I really want to get into that because cookies and fingerprinting are the same thing. Right now, Google is pushing the whole idea that fingerprinting is this new concept, but it's not. It's what cookies was. So the idea of cookies was I handle a lot of ads. So, I mean, hypothetically, I handle a lot of ads, and I want to know if ads people are seeing on website A that I have ads on is also seeing the same ad on website B I have ads on. So what I do is I have the browser store a small file that sends information back to me, like every website you visit, and it tells me information about your browser, your device, you, your search engine. Like, gives you all this information automatically. And originally, cookies was supposed to be small, minute amounts of data, and then it just eventually bloated into this big software style file that they can lock down to a very small size. And even Facebook has figured out how to turn the entire cookie into a single pixel, which is really scary. So cookies and fingerprinting is the same thing. Now, what is fingerprinting? Okay, so fingerprinting is when they take enough information off your device, your browser, to be able to identify you as an individual. For example, say you have a work computer and a home computer. Okay, your work computer and home computer have two different hard drives. They have two different sets of storage. But if you're using both in the same general concept, their storage limit of how full they are may be approximately the same. You have two different RAMs, which is your read-only memory, or random access memory, as it's actually called. So that's the memory that doesn't get stored to the hard drive, that can be erased, that stuff. Well, how much of that you have available, it doesn't change very often. Most people keep the same until they upgrade, and very few people actually upgrade that. Normally, if they upgrade it, they upgrade at the very beginning. So those are always going to stay the same, right? And then you could be using the exact same browser on both devices, and you could have the exact same operating system on both devices. Well, just because of the RAM size, they can actually determine which one is which. If you're using your work computer, they will know that it's a different computer. And if you're using the home computer, they will know that's a different computer. They don't know extreme specifics, but dang, they know enough information to get by. So even like the size of your screen, how big your screen is, can really be an identifier. If you have a huge screen, well, that's going to become a part of your fingerprinting, because not a whole lot of people have a huge screen. So something that you might want to take in effect is when you're going through and you're configuring your file, you might want to put in information like, say your screen size is bigger than your actual screen size or smaller than your actual screen size. You might want to give information that's not completely true. Like, for example, if you're running your browser through a virtual machine, you can tell the virtual machine you only have 1 GB of memory, or a more common amount of memory, like 150 gigabytes. The more common your device seems, the harder it's going to be to actually track you specifically. And then the less information you give your browser, the less they have to fingerprint you on. And I actually, like on my cell phone, it denies so much fingerprinting that some people say that I could actually be fingerprinted just based on that information. And it's true, I can be. So the ideal here is hiding in the numbers. Try to blend in as much as you can with when you're configuring these files if you're doing it by hand. If you use one of the automated systems, like the file up here that they're referencing, then you're going to look like 80% of the rest of the internet, and you're going to blend right on in. So cookie storage. Now, cookies, a lot of websites use cookies. I'm not gonna lie. Even my computer is set up to where after I leave a site, it deletes the cookies. After I shut down the browser, it deletes the cookies. So cookie storage is still kind of needed, but you can set it up to where it does different things. Like in the settings of my browser, I can automatically set up delete delete cookies when I'm done with the site, or delete cookies when I shut down the browser. And that's actually really important because then they can no longer track you after that. They can only track you while you're on their website. And stuff they use it for is not just for ads nowadays. And like some of the websites will actually put into the cookie where your last location was on the website. So if you hit refresh, it will automatically scroll back to where you were. Stuff like that. Blocking dangerous content can be done here. And that, that's a whole nother topic of discussion. But then we got like the socks or your socket system. Like a lot of people probably don't know what that actually is, but it's kind of like your port system and stuff like that you're using to traffic data across the internet. Your proxies and stuff like that if you need any of that. Even like enabling your DNS and stuff like that. Like I use a decentralized DNS. There's multiple kinds of DNS out there. You can change your DNS, and I recommend everybody change their DNS because the DNS that normally comes with your browser, it's almost always going to be the Google DNS. And well, that is not always a good thing. And if everybody switches to like 1111 or 5555, the decentralized DNS systems, then we can actually obfuscate ourselves even more, because when you go through like a Google DNS or a Microsoft DNS or a very specific DNS ran by a company instead of like a randomized organization, they're going to be tracking you in ways through that DNS that it's hard to explain in a single like episode. But we will eventually get to that point where we talk about it and explain it and give you guys that perspective change, because right now everyone thinks DNS is a good thing. Only thing DNS does is move content across the internet faster, and that's through caching, which is a really fun topic of discussion. So the reason why I'm covering this part right here is I know some people who watch this, they're going to want to manually configure their file, even if they download a file right here. They're going to want it. You're going to, like it even says right here, go through and change stuff. So you're going to want to know how to do that. So I really want to focus on that for a second. So when you're doing stuff like security, TLS version, that's stuff you really need to look up, because there are security researchers and security professionals that kind of can tell you exactly how to set these up to where you have basically security out of the box in your browser without any additional things. So imagine you have most people have an antivirus system, right? Imagine if your antivirus system didn't have to watch all of your web traffic. It could actually speed up your device. It could speed up your computer. If your browser handles a portion of virus protection and attacking protection, then it's going to actually allow you to have a faster system. And so I know this is really all about security, but one of the benefits of handling your own security is you can make your stuff more efficient. The more efficient stuff is, the better time you're going to have online. No joke. So rather you see the full app bar or you see a trimmed version of the URL, you can actually set that. Now, I recommend everybody always see the full app. And what that means, like if you see right up here, you can see if I click here, it does not expand. There are a lot of websites that they would just say, like the first part, it would just say github.com. But then when you go click up on it, it expands. Now it's not going to expand right now because it thinks I'm trying to edit it, but it will expand out, and then you'll see there's more there. So if you can't see that full app bar, it's a lot easier to trick you. It's a lot easier to send you to a fake website, and you never know it's fake because it looks legit in the app bar until you click on it, and then the whole thing changes. And there are even a lot of professionalized websites that they really need that shortening of the app, because their full link is actually really weird, and it's just because of how they host their data. And so if you kind of get used to a professional website you go to has a weird at, then one day if you go to the website and you're no longer at that weird at, that's going to catch your attention. Little things like that. It doesn't seem like it would, But once you get used to seeing these things, if you're going to like facebook.com and you're used to seeing facebook.com/user/blah blah blah/blah blah blah, and you're getting used to seeing that all the time, then one day you go to Facebook and it just says fb.com, that might catch you. That's going to catch your attention. You're like, wait a minute, that's not normally FB, it's Facebook. And again, I mean, this is a part of the whole security thing. If you can see the full at, then your money is in a pocket and you just have more pockets. That's really what that's coming down to. Because remember the whole reference at the beginning, put the money in a wallet, put the wallet in your pocket, you have more in one pocket, they have to guess. Well, what if you had even more pockets they had to guess? What if you had a hidden pocket inside your bottom pant leg? Well, then they can guess all day and they're not going to find it. But if you can see people reaching into your pockets, then you'll know what's going on. And that's what this really is. So a randomized HTTP refer. I'm actually one of those people that I really hate refers, because that's one of the forms of attack. But using a randomized refer just means that you're not using the exact same one over and over and over. A lot of times your DNS systems will have specified refers and things like that. So if you're using like a Google DNS, if you're using like a Microsoft DNS, you might want to go ahead and use a randomized refer. If you're using a decentralized DNS, you might not want to use a randomized refer. The only benefit of getting from a randomized refer is that if an attacker is trying to find you specifically, I mean, this isn't going to be for everybody in this point, then they're going to, if you're not randomizing it, they're going to know which DNS systems to hit to find you. If you are using randomized and you can't access the website, well, if you hit refresh, you have a chance of getting a different DNS output, getting a different refer. You have a chance of finding a website, basically. So those are the only benefits to using randomized refers. Like your fonts, a lot of people, they just keep the fonts enabled. Well, believe it or not, because of stuff like the Facebook Pixel and things like that, well, we can hide. People can actually hide stuff inside fonts. They can hide viruses. They can hide download packets. Tons of stuff that can actually be hidden inside of a font. So this is like actually why it says on here disable fonts, because yeah, sure, it won't look as pretty as it did before. You can actually tell your browser what font you want. Then you always have the same font across all websites, which I know, like if you're getting older like me, like I'm actually getting older, it's sometimes hard to read some of the fonts people put on websites nowadays. They get some pretty unique fonts. And so this might actually be able to help you in that case as well. Auto update Firefox. I am a person that does not auto update. I know a lot of people think that it's a great thing. It allows you to forget about what's going on. But the problem is when you auto update, if it auto updates to a version that's not working properly or has issues or bugs or whatever, you got it. Now that's another problem in your hand. If you don't auto update, you can wait for that update to be vetted by professionals that deal with this stuff. And then you just, like, there's actually YouTube pages. There's various different places that you can actually watch people. They talk about it. They give information on it. And you can watch them vet it physically, go through the process of trying to attack it and trying to find holes and this and that. And they read the scripts, they read the data, and then they vet it. And then you can go, okay, it's been vetted. Now I can update to that package. And then you can update it yourself. And updating it yourself, and for me, it's like a ritual now. Once a month, I go through and I check my vets. I check everything. Say, is this vetted? Is this vetted? Is this vetted? And if it is, I do my updates. If it's not, I don't do my updates. And it just becomes a ritual. And it sounds needless, but it's actually very needed. And it's just like if you go clean your house, you clean up your home, you got to clean up your devices. You got to clean up everything else. And that does also include your updates. That's the type of cleaning. Because when you do that, if there was a bug in an old update and it just finally gets found because a new update come out and the vetting process of that update, researchers saw, hey, look, they're fixing a bug. Then okay, I need to clean that up. And I know cleaning up is probably the weirdest way to say it, but it's the best way to look at it. And if you look at it like you're cleaning up, you're more likely to do it. And again, fingerprinting. So fingerprinting, if you're not allowing fingerprinting, that's a fingerprint. That's a direct fingerprint that they can go off of. And the more people that refuse the fingerprint, the harder it will be to find individualism inside the internet. And so I have mine set in a weird manner where I actually have a couple of scripts to basically change if it's true or false. And so a lot of times when I go onto the website, it'll be true. And then as I do anything on the website, it will change it back to false. And so there will be a type of fingerprint made, but it will never be updated. And so I just stay a static fingerprint on that system. And then every time I go in there, I basically get a brand new fingerprint. So I look like a brand new user. And as long as it's not exactly the same information on both fingerprints, I really am a brand new user. So there are different ways you can even make the fingerprinting less usable for you. And something that I really want to talk about, fingerprinting and cookies and stuff. You've heard the people say, they go, look, I was talking with someone about blah, 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 and then I was seeing ads for blah, blah, blah. Well, there was a real life thing where a person was looking, basically trying to find out if they were pregnant. And turns out, they found a product, they bought the product online, came in discreetly, they were able to use it discreetly. They were having all this privacy up to the point that, well, because they shared the same router and they had the same profile on their browser as one of their parent was getting ads for this specific product. And it actually set an alarm in the person's brain, said, hey, this ain't right. I don't normally get ads for this. And they were then looking for the product, the packaging. They found the packaging. They figured out what happened. And basically there was a big problem, where such a big issue that it actually spurred up a lawsuit against the people that created the ad system or whatever, because it was designed around privacy. They were supposed to be able to do this discreetly. And it turns out like they weren't actually pregnant or anything. They were just wanting to check themselves. There are some people that they check themselves for whatever, just they might be a hypochondriac or something like that, and it caused a large issue that shouldn't have happened simply because of fingerprinting and cookie tracking, and giving people personalized ads. And the reason why they were using the browser that one of their parents was using is because the parent, the parent and the child, because the child wasn't really super young, but the parent and the child wasn't, they just kind of were like not aware that that was a bad thing to do. They thought, oh, well, if we're both all using the same thing, then that should be okay. Might be able to obfuscate us or something. And in reality, it actually caused an issue. But that's fingerprinting and cookies. I think to me that they're really, really bad. Now, and you can see down we go add-ons, certificate stuff. Certificates nowadays is kind of a joke. If you haven't been paying attention, I think it was NVIDIA or one of the graphics processing unit systems, uh, their certificate system got put out on the internet, and now there's a bunch of fake versions of those certificates, and so people are like hacking into Windows and all these other things because certificate, they got a fake certificate. So that's kind of a joke nowadays. When it first came out, it was a good thing. And the EFF's Privacy Badger, yeah, I would recommend that, because the EFF is just Electronics Freedom Fighters or something like that. I can't remember what it is, but it just allows people to have the freedom online. They're pushing freedom online. It's like RTFM, read the F in manual, things like that, right? Cookie Quick Manager. Probably not the best idea, but these are the systems like right here that allow you to do things like delete cookies when you leave a web page, things like that. So uBlock Origin. I think a lot of browsers nowadays have uBlock Origin, and it's generically good. It really is. It can cause a lot of problems though. Like my uBlock was actually stopping me from sharing my page, and every time I went to share the page, when the pop-up came up to accept it, it was causing issues. So different, and like uMatrix also can do this, but it can also do a lot more. So these are other things that, sure, they're really good to have, but they might cause complications. So when you have these complications, don't freak out, take a deep breath, and remember, it's to protect you. It's not a bad thing, it's just irritating. But you could have simply just change your settings into your browser. to really allow these differences. And so user agent switcher, I was kind of talking about this earlier. This allows you to do things like I said, like I got the one where it does my fingerprinting for me. I also have one where if I wanted to, I can like switch who I am on my browser on the fly, which changes everything. It changes my bar, or like my little bar up here. It changes my little bar down over here. It changes everything for me. And for you, it might not. It might just change like what pops up when you start typing. It might just change what search engine you go through. It might just change your cookies or your fingerprinting. It all depends on what you want. And Canvas blocker. Now, a lot of websites use Canvas. So if you start blocking Canvas, you're gonna have broken websites, and that's not actually a bad thing. That then you take screenshots of stuff and you share it out and you tell them, hey, stop using Canvas. It's a bad system, and then less people will use it. But Canvas is how you draw on a website. Like it's how the website draws images instead of loading in images and stuff like that. It can actually slow down your device pretty hard. And then here you can see they are recommending some browsers. I don't recommend either one of these browsers. And different tools. Now, these tools, though, I definitely recommend because these are for testing your data. So you see here, iPeek will test if your DNS is good. It will. This one here, I'm not even sure how to say that. Panoptic kick EFF. It just checks to see how your browser is set up. Browser leak sees what's leaking out of your browser. IP check checks if it can find your IP. So these little checks and balances right here, they're actually handy as heck. And a lot of these, if you just type in browser leaks info, I think it will pop up browserleaks.com and all these different things. And all that does is you set up your stuff, your web browser, and then go on that web browser and you use these tools and you try to see what's being leaked. And then that tells you what to tweak or what to change, or maybe that's the information you want leaked. Because I mean, you can purposely leak data to these cookies and fingerprinting systems that just kind of hide a little bit more of who you are. Like I leak the fact that I'm in Sweden. So that doesn't mean I'm actually in Sweden, but everybody thinks everything I go to, it says, "Oh, you're in Sweden." Yep, I'm in Sweden. So then I follow Swedish laws, and I'm okay with it. And that's just more laws that they have to handle because this EU has really good internet privacy laws in a lot of places for a lot of reasons. And so thinking of these tiny little things, doing these tiny little differences, it will really change your experience. And a lot of times it just makes you safer, makes it funner. You can really speed up the process. You might be able to actually do stuff that you online that you haven't been able to do in a long time. You'd be surprised what a little bit of changing can do for your device. Now I want to go Firefox Profile Maker. You can actually literally just search Firefox Profile Maker and this should pop up. But so it's ffprofile.com. It makes it really easy to remember, ffprofile.com. So what does this do? This builds that index, that user file. That's what this does. This builds your profile for you. And so we can actually, like you see, they got all options or private browsing only. So let's go to all options and see what we get. So the idea behind this is going to be a step-by-step way for you to set up your own user file without having to be an expert on this stuff. And it's going to do a lot of the work for you. And this is a great way to start if you're not going to use already built user file. This is your next best deal. So disable Firefox intro on tabs on first alert. Anything that says on here, disable the first run tabs with advertisements for the latest Firefox features. Boom, turn that off. So you're just going to kind of go through here. It's going to say what it is and then kind of explain what it does. So pretty simple. And then like pocket reading list. Some people, they use pockets so that way when they go on their phone, they can automatically pull up the stuff they were reading or something they needed to look at later or a reference for work or something. And so that's why if you're doing stuff like that, use pockets. Sure, they can be attacked and this other stuff, but it's not half bad. And if you're going to use a browser that doesn't have pockets, well, just disable pocket and this will work for your browser. So basically what I'm saying is you can use this on more than just Firefox browsers. This should work for all Chromium-based browsers, all Chrome-based browsers. And some of the stuff, it won't actually do what it's supposed to because it won't be on the other browser. And like I know, for example, like when I disabled this first one for Opera, you get there so often this Opera will be like, oh, we updated, da 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 da. I don't get that no more, just because I had turned that off. It's the same setting or the same whatever inside of both browsers that do that same thing, and so one setting changed, fixed both my problems for both browsers. Disable top side, so you can see the stuff in here. It's a lot of it's marketing, 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 marketing. You know, advertisements. And then what's this other one I was just looking at? Sponsored top sites. So all these different things. It's like you don't really, you don't need all this marketing pushed down your throat sometimes. A lot of times people who have been on the internet for a while, they don't really want that anymore. They're like, I know what I'm doing. Let me just do what I'm doing. And so if that's you, you're going to be loving this tool. It's going to help you get through all that. So what are the other big ones? So like you see disable about config warning. If you ever go into about config, it kind of tells you not to do it. And if you know that's how you get into your configuration for your browser, which it is, then you want to disable that so you can actually go into it. It's just basically trying to stop you from configuring your browser. It's kind of cruddy that browsers do that. Do not trim URLs. Perfect. Disable checking if Firefox is the default browser. They don't need to know that information, right? That's another marketing. Disable reset prompt. So like says, when Firefox is not used for a while, it displays a prompt asking if the user wants to reset the profile. And as you see, that is a bug. There's a bug related to this. That means they can people, when this prompt pops up, if it's sitting on your thing for a while, people can use that to their advantage for different reasons. Heartbeat unresting. With Firefox 37, Mozilla integrated a heartbeat system to ask users from time to time about their experience with Firefox. Marketing. Marketing. And so as we go through all these different things, you're going to see 90% of this that we're disabling. It's going to be marketing. Thumbnails of the most visited pages. Thumbnails of the most visited pages and suggestions from Firefox. Nothing. Disable autoplay on video. A lot of people like autoplay. And you can embed stuff into videos. And me, I don't have audio running on most of my stuff, so I just have autoplay disabled because I have to tell it to push the audio through to even hear it, so it just slows me down if it's autoplaying. And you just save and next. And at any point in time, if you feel ready, you can just save it. And, whatever. Telemetry. Yeah, that's a really fun word, isn't it? And you see here, there's actually a link to tell you more about what this actually is, but basically it sends data about the performance and responsiveness to Mozilla. They don't, if you have a bug or a crash, you can send that data to them. They don't need to know everything. Disable health report. They don't need to know everything you're doing. Disable field studies. That's just more information being given to the maker of your browser. Disable experiments. Do you need them to experiment on you? Heck no. Disable crash reports. Now, I keep this on. I really do. I keep this on. Actually, I just realized I need to read people these. I was just reading them. But I keep this one on. Why is your crash report important? When you have a crash report, you can actually look through the data and see what crashed. And sometimes you can search that information and find out what actually happened. And it can actually help you as well as being help them. Just because you get a crash report doesn't mean you have to send it. Keep in mind. So opt out of metadata updates. Yeah, I don't want to update everything. Disable Google Safe Browsing. This can detect phishing and malware, but it also sends everything to Google. This is one of those things that's come out with their DNS. Their DNS does the exact same thing. And basically, it can see anything on your screen, is what that really means, is it can see everything on your screen. So if you're typing in a secure password, it's no longer secure. If you type, so you want to disable all that. Disable malware scan. The malware scan sends a unique identifier to Google. Disable DNS over HTTPS. And That's actually one of those things I'm always talking about, right? DNS, I've said it like 3 times already. So if you're using HTTP, DNS is pretty good to have. But HTTPS DNS doesn't always use the best. It can cause a lot of issues. A lot of times when you load up a website and it's a blank screen and then automatically it just pops in, that's an HTTPS and DNS error. And you can see here, most people run Cloudflare, and that kind of can slow stuff down, and that basically just kills the point of a DNS. So disable preloading of a new tab page. Disable auto on. You can see a lot of this stuff, it's basic things that people don't want. Ads. Disable playback of DRM controlled HTML5 content. So if you don't know what DRM is, it's a rights digital rights manager. So if someone has on their website something with digital rights on it, it won't allow you to play that. So automatically stops the playing of it, which means you don't have to be hit for anything if you're doing live streams or something. This is really handy because then you don't have to worry about being hit with that Digital Millennial Act thing, DMCA or whatever. It really helps you out for that kinds of things. And you can see here, if enabled, automatically downloads the content from Google. So it automatically downloads content if you're on a website. Disables that exact thing we're just talking about. Disable access to device sensor data. I have this set up so like when I have my headphones or something plugged in, I have to actually tell it, hey, yeah, access this for right now. Disable Firefox suggest. As you can see, disable JavaScript is automatically turned off, so it's going to enable JavaScript. Most websites use JavaScript, and so if you disable JavaScript, you're going to get a lot of sites that just come up, hey, you need to enable JavaScript. And if that's your thing, you can easily just say, disable it for now, and then enable it on sites you choose to enable it on. Next one is privacy. This is one that you're going to have to just go through. It's pretty much set up automatically the way you're going to want it to be, but these little options here for cookies, refers, that's all going to be based on your opinion. If you don't have an opinion on any of that, don't mess with it. And yeah, you can use a fake user agent, which is something I use, and they have a little way to access that information to figure out how to learn about it. So I recommend you learn about it and then use this little spot, because having a fake user agent can be really handy. Website tracking. This is the part you really want to look at. This is just basically, hey, don't track me. You see here where it says resist fingerprinting is, not enabled, because again, like I said, that is a fingerprint on its own. But it's something that can be turned on and off on the fly. So just so you know, keep that in mind. Security, you can see here, disable searching for updates. I keep that thing on. Disable extension block list from Mozilla. I keep that on. And if you see here, the extension block list is used by Mozilla to deactivate individual add-ons in the browser. Now, if you're using extensions, you might want to keep that on. Enable HTTPS only mode. There's very few websites even I go to that have HTTP and no HTTPS. But if you have this turned on and you find a website that is like that, you can actually disable it for a short time, visit that website, get done with that website, then turn it back on. Show Punycode. This helps to protect against possible character spoofing. A lot of times when you hit this button, it's going to make websites look more confusing. So a lot of people keep it off. Add-ons. This is going to be all on you, like your individual preferences, what you want to do with. So, go ahead and take some time on this part. Don't be afraid to click these and find out more about this stuff. Learning is always a positive thing. So then we have like disable the PDF viewer, disable the Firefox accounts, all this little stuff right here. That's pretty much how you're going to want it set up. And then you hit finish and it says, hey, you did not finish all questions. You can still download the profile, but there are more options available. Don't be worried. Don't be worried. That just means I left stuff out. I didn't click on everything. You can see everything I clicked on by hand. It did not do this. Do not add in the, and that's all that really means. And so don't be scared when you see that. That just means that if, like, for example, if you don't want any of this to be put into it, you just want it to be how it normally is, so none of these disabled or whatever, that's when you would go like this. If you want all this stuff in here, that's when you go like, save and next. But I'm just trying to get through it because I'm not actually going to download this profile. I have my own profile. And then you can see here, you can download it as a zip. The enterprise policy, the only preferences, you can actually open it directly into a Firefox browser if you have a Firefox browser. And actually, I'm using Opera, and this will work for me. And download the add-ons. That's it. So what I tell people, download all of the different versions, put them into a file or a folder that says, my preferred user file or something like that. And then whatever browser you're using, if one doesn't work, one of the other ones probably will. And again, it even tells you where you can put this stuff. Like see here, like if you download the add-ons.zip, you only need to copy this bit. I mean, like tons of information. And it might seem confusing, but there is this thing called copy and paste. Highlight, copy, and paste. And in this case, you can be like, I believe we can do select all. Nope, not in this little box. I was hoping so. But boom, copy, and we can paste. You can see here's the policies. And yes, the policies are important with the preferences. So here we don't actually have the copy. These are going to be what's putting into your file. But I do believe, yeah, you can't change it right here. But when you download the file, you can go in the file and you can change it. So if you see something or you want to add more into here, you just go into the file after you download it and change it. This is just showing you what's going to be in there. So so you don't have to guess. You don't have to assume. You can verify what's going on. All right, so this really is nope, won't let me turn that off. Okay. So basically all this really is like just showing you the first step. This is the baby step, right? First step to increasing your privacy, which helps your security, which can make your device a little bit faster, which can give you that ease of knowing you're not trusting something or someone. You can verify information, you can verify the data before you use it. You don't have to have guessing game anymore. And just knowing that when you go into your browser, you're a tiny bit safer, you're a tiny bit more secure, you're a tiny bit more private. That's actually a huge ease of burden on a lot of people. Especially if you're running a business or something like that, knowing that you can set your business browser to handle a little bit more of its own security. It's actually kind of cool. So, I mean, privacy, it really is a freedom. So you should take control of this privacy, or someone else will take control of it for you. You notice a lot of things in here. It said Google, Mozilla, it's naming off big corporations that will handle that for you. And so if you let them do that for you, you will have to fight physically back to get your freedom back, if you're even able to get it back at all. And that's kind of more scary than just taking the 30 minutes to harden your browser a little bit and obfuscate what's being leaked to make sure that you look more like everybody else, so that way you can blend in the ads while having a little bit more private and security put into the browser. So if you start with your browser, this baby step will help you to the next step, and it'll build your confidence up in knowing that you're able to do this type of stuff. You're able to take more control of what you're doing, and building up that confidence with your digital self. It will actually change the way you handle things. It won't just change. If you're taking time out to do stuff like this, then maybe you'll start taking time out to look at your updates. Maybe you'll start taking time out to see what your apps on your phone are accessing, or different things like that. And these baby steps really make a huge difference. And then once you get used to doing these, they become a part of you. You no longer just jump on a brand new device and jump on the browser. You go, okay, I jumped on the device. Now let's do all this little all this little fun stuff. Let's check the browser, let's check the hardening, let's harden this, let's harden that, and it becomes like fun. It's something you don't do very often. So when you go do it, you're like, oh yeah, I'm ready for this. And having that extra confidence in yourself, I mean, you'll more people will see it than just when you're online. People, you'll be like, oh yeah, I got no problem. Blah, blah, blah. And you're talking to people offline and stuff. They're gonna also notice you got that confidence, and a little bit of confidence here and there grows in a long way. So like I said, once you keep going, once you change your perspective on what privacy actually is personally, offline and online, well then you're going to be set for the next stage of your digital self, your digital privacy, your digital everything. Because as we're growing into a more digital world, there's a lot more that we need to consider and handle on our own, and there's nothing wrong with that. It is what it is. So I really appreciate you guys watching this through, jumping in and having a great time. If you guys want to ever appear on here, maybe to ask questions or even give perspectives or anything of that time, just comment below or any place that you see this and let us know. We might actually be able to make that kind of thing happen. And I do want to hear from you guys. I do want to hear, maybe there's some kind of perspective you guys have that you guys might want to hear more about, and maybe there might be a way to change it. You never know until you ask, right? And so, what I want to say to you guys again, thank you for showing up. Work on your privacy because it's more important than most people realize, and your digital privacy is as equal to your physical privacy. Don't let people tell you different, because once you start taking control of your digital privacy, you're going to realize really quickly it is just like my physical privacy. I don't want to put that wallet in a clear plastic bag around my neck. Heck no. You don't want people to know how much money you have in your pocket at all times. Heck no. You don't want people to know how many tabs you have open in your browser. It might be embarrassing for some people. Oh, they got 500. Oh, they got 2. You never know. All right. Thank you again for everybody for showing up. Have a great day. Hope to see you later.